I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Quiet Riot. Welcome to Quiet Riot B-Side, the Cooler Heads deep dive companion to our newsy Thursday chat. I'm Alex Andreou.
And I'm Naomi Smith, here to help Alex change the record. And today we're missing Kenny, who usually keeps an eye on proceedings to make sure we don't end up at the seaside.
So that task falls to me now, does it? Oh dear. Listeners, it's time to dim the lights, get comfy and settle down for Quiet Riot B-Side. Now, yesterday we looked at the murder of Henry Novak and how various segments of the far right are positioning themselves to exploit it, a sort of bidding war to claim the ground on that side of politics. Arguably, there is similar churn on the left on the policy side, exacerbated by the looming possibility of a leadership contest within Labour. Pretty central to this is a simple question. Who is Labour for?
So joining us again is ThinkLabour's Christabel Cooper, who has authored a report on precisely this topic. Welcome back, Christabel.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Under my leadership in the Labour government, Andreou Bevan did a great work. He launched the National Health Service and he grappled with the extremely difficult problem of the rehousing of the population after the war when so many houses were destroyed during the Blitz. Sometimes I differed from him politically, but I never failed in affection and admiration for this outstanding character.
Christabel, last month you published a report asking that frankly pretty existential question for the Labour Party right now. Who are you actually for? After local elections in which Labour shed votes to parties on its left and right simultaneously, and in which Labour and the Conservatives combined managed just 34% of the projected national vote share, I know, the question does feel urgent. The report argues that Labour can still build a broad coalition, but only if it gets honest about its values. So to kick us off, Christabel, the report is called Who is Labour For? In the spirit of the thing, can you just give listeners a bit of a flavour for who ThinkLabour is for?
ThinkLabour is a political think tank. We aligned with the Labour Party. We explicitly exist to help Labour govern and win. And we do that through a combination of looking at policy and political strategy. So I do the public opinion work there to understand what the great British public are thinking at the moment.
And in this big sort of bun fight about the various factions, I guess, are you in particular aligned to a faction or, I mean, how would you describe yourselves? If we were in the pub and I said, are you
a blue Labour think tank? Are you a Blairite think tank?
Are you blue Labour?
Yeah.
Are you, what would you say just between friends?
So we genuinely are post-factional.
Post-factional, not anti-factional. I like that.
Well, I mean, anti-factional as well as post-factional.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I've been a member of the Labour Party for a long time. I've lived through a period where, there was essentially a state of civil war, and that ended in a catastrophic defeat. I don't think we really need to go back to that sort of very kind of tribal, visceral conflict that existed. It doesn't help. I mean, the Labour Party, not only its voters, but the Labour Party itself is a broad church. There are people with very different views on how to build a fairer and better society. And it should be a place where those ideas can be debated. And even within the ThinkLabour office, I can reveal that there are some really quite interesting and quite tasty arguments that we have.
But that's good, because you cannot have groupthink in a think tank. Yeah.
And actually, I would say that's one of the best things about us, is that people are genuinely encouraged to express their views. And I do think that we decide what our house view is on its merits. Nobody kind of goes into an argument destined to lose. It is, if you make your case, then people are very, very persuadable. So we do see ourselves as kind of beyond that kind of very tribal, we must believe in this because we are this particular sub-faction of the Labour Party that,
You are going to have to extrapolate that out for the country, right? That you are going to have to find a way as a party to bring together people who've got different views to agree that, okay, this is a thing we can get behind. Your report says along those lines that Labour won in 2024 by deliberately leaving the tent vague so that different voters could project their own hopes and dreams onto it. Is that actually a criticism, or is that just a description of how broad tent politics under a first-past-the-post system has to work?
So I think it's a description of how a party went from a catastrophic defeat in 2019 to an absolutely ginormous majority in 2024, which is, it is an incredible achievement. Labour doesn't win a lot of elections. So that was an incredible...
and was not predicted to win this one a couple of years before.
Absolutely. Most people thought that Keir Starmer would be a sort of interim figure, the kind of Neil Kinnock figure.
Most people thought Boris Johnson would get a second term.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember
or
the Giants toad squatting across the...
I remember people talking about a Johnson third term.
So you've got to give the Starmer project its due in that it was enormously successful in overturning that in that majority and winning a huge one of its own. It's a legitimate tactic, I think, from opposition to do that. Now, I think you can argue, did it put Labour in a more difficult position when it came to governing? I think that's definitely an argument that you can make. But it is, it's a legitimate tactic from opposition to sort of say, look, we know you hate the Tories. We want to be a place that you feel happy to cast your vote to get rid of them. To continue that way in government, you can't, because you've actually got to make decisions. You've actually got to, and especially given the inheritance that the Tories bequeathed Labour, there's just nothing but horrible, hard choices ahead of them, right from the beginning. And I think kind of pretending that those choices don't exist or trying to fudge your way through them, you just can't do that with the situation that they were handed.
Okay, so you're sort of saying that the Ming Vase strategy, as it was so often referred to in the run-up to 2024, was the right thing to do in order to cobble together a very, low vote share, but enough, only just over a third of the vote, which will have been made up of tactical voters. It will have been made up of people who had not seen the implosion on the right coming to quite the extent that it did, and were like, okay, well, anyone but that lot are going to have to do. But that it is insufficient now, halfway through your first term, to not really lay out how you're going to govern, why you want to do it. I'm really interested in the framing you put in the report around two types of Labour voter that they're going to need during the next 2 years in the run-up to a general election. And you call them values-driven progressives and more transactional voters. But isn't the problem, for whomever is going to lead the party into the next election, that what reassures one group alienates the other?
So the argument is that, when I sort of started thinking about this, what I started thinking about was, why do people vote for political parties in the first place? Which is, increasingly a question given the fragmented nature of our politics. Why does anyone vote for anyone? And I suppose I sort of looking at some political science and reading some books and other things, which I sometimes do. One set of people clearly vote for political parties, and I would include myself among that, on the basis of values. I think, I am a economically left-leaning, socially liberal person, and therefore I feel that my politics best align with the Labour Party. But then there are other people, and in fact, there's kind of three groups. There's this sort of group of economically insecure people as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you sort of think about the foundation of the Labour Party, it was founded to represent the interests of economically insecure working class people. But then there's voters, and there's always been this group of people who don't feel particularly aligned to any particular party. They don't sort of wake up in the morning and think, oh, yeah, those are the guys for me.
Yeah.
But, and often people, I worked most of my life outside politics and most people go to work every day and don't think about politics at all. They've got better things to think about. But, when they come around to a general election, they're going to decide who to vote for on the basis of what are the issues that matter to me? Who do I think is the best party to deliver on those?
Make me an offer, basically.
Yeah, kind of make me an offer. Nobody, even me, I don't go into a polling booth and think every single thing that I want is going to be delivered by this particular party. It's always going to be a compromise. It's always going to be I like their stuff on this bit. I don't like their stuff on something else. But actually, this is the thing that is more important to me, and I like what they have to offer on this. Political actors often just forget that is the process.
Yeah.
They sort of imagine this imaginary voter, and they imagine kind of absolutely charming this one median voter, and then they're like, yeah, I really believe in you. And actually, that's just not how people are. Sort of just thinking, well, okay, I'm not sure about any of this, but, maybe these guys will be the best on this issue.
And so what is the common thread then that can turn out both of those or all three of those groups of
So I think you have to do different things for different people. So the argument of the report is that your values-based voters, you actually have to tell them that you are an economically left-leaning and moderately socially liberal party. Whether deliberately or not, I think Labour has struggled to do over the past couple of years. It has done quite a lot of progressive things, but it just doesn't really talk about them in terms of values. It doesn't sort of say, we did the Employment Rights Bill because we believe in looking after insecure workers. We did the Renters' Rights Bill for the same reason. We're doing all this stuff on climate because we really believe in all of this. We sort of do it and then sort of don't really talk about it in those terms. So those values-based voters are kind of sitting there, and they will have registered things like the Island of Strangers speech and sort of think, well, who are these people? Why don't I feel that I am aligned with them anymore? And then for those kind of, for the insecure and transactional voters, it really is about kind of demonstrating delivery. And again, Labour has done quite a few things. I mean, on NHS waiting lists, for example, there's a really good story to tell. But I mean, equally, we are in a really, really difficult situation. Our friend in America has not made things any easier. We're about to take the hit from his ludicrous
new tariffs that he's
more tariffs from his ludicrous adventure in Iran. But and this is kind of the part of the argument, and this is where sort of ThinkLabour is doing a lot of thinking about really hard policy decisions that it's got to make about really committing to growing the economy, really committing to making people's real wages go up so that they feel a bit of benefit. On immigration, which is the sort of one of the big dividing lines between the Labour coalition, which I think Labour has really struggled with. What the polling really tells us is the bit of immigration that people really care about is small boats.
Irregular.
It's the sort of sense that the borders are out of control, that there is this sort of, I think there's something psychological about being an island and boats coming over. That is the bit that they care about most. I mean, there are some people who just don't like foreigners, but
they're not going to vote for Labour anyway.
Exactly. They're not going to vote for us anyway. Most people, your median voter, wants immigration to come down, probably thinks that, the small boats is a bigger percentage of migration than it actually is. Yeah. But that's the thing that they really are judging the government on. And I'm not trying to pretend it's an easy thing to do, otherwise it would have been done. But that is the bit that they really, if they want to win back those migration skeptic voters, it is by delivering on that issue that they do it, not by, and this is kind of the argument that I sort of make in the report, and whether it's deliberate or not, they have appeared to be trying to win those voters back by sort of mimicking some of the language of the right and sort of saying, we empathise with you, we agree with you about all migrants.
Yeah.
And those voters just don't believe it.
Yeah.
They find it very inauthentic. And really what they're judging the government on is, have you got the numbers down? I mean, Rishi Sunak.
The figures were out last week.
Yep.
And all those numbers are heading in I don't think it's a good direction, by the way, because I think we're going to take an economic hit down the road from migration now having become too low. But they are all moving in the direction those voters want them in 2025. Every single one of those metrics, some in extraordinary ways, like overall net migration, is down by 2/3. And yet there were 2 polls asking people what they thought had happened to migration in 2025. And they all thought it went up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, if the thing that is really your focus has come down by 2/3 and you believe it's gone up, something is going wrong there. So it's not about the results. It's not just about the results, I should say.
So I would just say that it is that small boats number that is, which actually is down year on year, but we'll see what happens over the summer. Because the lever that government can pull is regular migration, then it pulls that lever, but that's not actually the lever that's connected to public opinion.
Or the bit of public opinion that might vote Labour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Quiet Riot.
Starting or growing your own business can be intimidating and lonely at times. Your to-do list may feel endless with new tasks, and lists can easily begin to overrun your life. So finding the right tool that not only helps you out, but simplifies everything as a built-in business partner can be a game changer. For millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. From household names like Gymshark, Rare Beauty, and Heinz, to brands just getting started. Shopify has hundreds of ready-to-use templates that can help you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand's style. And you can tackle all the important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. No need to save multiple websites or try to figure out what platform is hosting the tool that you need. And if people haven't heard about your brand, you can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you, with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns to reach customers wherever they're scrolling or strolling. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/realm. Go to shopify.com/realm. That's shopify.com/realm.
Quiet Riot.
I owe this party everything I've got, not the job, not being leader of the Labour Party. I owe this party every life chance I've had from the time I was a child. A life chance. The life chance of a comfortable home with working parents, people who had jobs, a life chance of moving out of a pest and damp infested set of rooms into a decent home built by a Labour council under a Labour government, the life chance of an education that went on for as long as I wanted to take it. Me and millions of others of my generation got all their chances from this movement. That's what I tell you, and you listen. I'm telling you, you can't play politics with people's jobs and with people's services.
The report is pretty tough on, I guess, what people might describe as the Morgan McSweeney strategy of chasing voters lost to the right. And that might be an unfair characterisation. But there still seems to be quite a live argument within the parliamentary Labour Party that without those voters, without being able to appeal to those showing up now in the Reform bloc, that Labour simply can't win again. I mean, within the last week, we've had Jonathan Hinder and others all, coming out and making that case that, Labour's got to go after that kind of voter, the Red Wall, Reform curious here.
Jonathan going to go
he was
to
not
Reform?
alone. I was pulling him.
When is he going to go to Reform? Because we all know he's going to do a massive flounce whoever is elected Labour leader, right?
Okay, not the point I'm trying to make.
No, I know. Okay, sorry.
There is a live argument within the PLP. I know there is because I talk to large chunks of them all the time about these kinds of issues. And they are worried, even when they are personally extremely wedded to membership of the European Union. They're thinking about, but I might lose my seat to Reform. Therefore, Labour cannot, move on that issue. Immigration is an adjacent one, etc. So where would you say the balance of opinion lies within the broader Labour movement at the moment, and maybe even specifically the PLP?
This is one of the big problems of winning such a huge majority, is that you win this this absolutely enormous range of seats and you as you say, you've got, and then the local elections are a really good demonstration of it. You have people in London and Manchester who are now terrified about the Greens taking their seats. You have people in the post-industrial towns who are terrified about Reform taking their seats. So, I mean, I'm very much arguing that you do need people back from both sides. Now, we know, I think, that some of those that Labour have lost to the right are almost certainly not coming back. I mean, there's just quite a large number of people who switch to Reform who say their chances of voting Labour again are literally zero.
Yeah.
So I think we can accept that those people have probably gone.
Because their primary motivation, I suspect, was
to get rid of the
let's
Tories.
Try something else.
Yeah,
and now that's not
exactly.
working in their eyes. They're like, let's try something else. So,
it's not like they were voting Labour since 1992.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. There are there are relatively few Reform voters that were ex-Labour voters. No, absolutely. But we are going to need some of those people back. Whether we like it or not, the next election is going to be fought under first past the post. And that means that in all the seats where Labour is facing Reform, which is going to be most of them, a Reform Labour switcher counts double because it's like one off the Labour pile and one onto the Reform pile. So even though nearly all pollsters will show that we are losing more votes to progressive parties than to Reform or the Conservatives, those ones you're losing to the right do in most places
they
count
do,
double.
Depending on how much you're losing to the Greens, though, because if you're losing, if you're gaining one back from Reform, but losing six. Four or six to the Greens, then
absolutely.
And also, I'd love to get your opinion on where thinking is about Wales and Scotland, because there is so much narrative about the post-industrial English towns dominating the direction of travel for the party in terms of its electoral appeal. And I feel sorry for Anna Sowell and Eleanor Morgan and now Ken Skates, who's replaced her, because they're invisible in the discourse about all of this. And those are not the same kind of voter that you're losing as you are in England.
Yeah.
These are heartlands of the socialist movement going back well over 100 years. Yet, why do you think they're being sort of almost surrendered?
So, I mean, the political situation in Scotland is just mind-blowingly complicated at the moment. I mean, obviously, you've kind of got the added complication of independence as an issue, which kind of then cuts across, existing party political lines. The thing that both Scotland and Wales have in common is that there is another progressive alternative to Labour. And in both of those nations, I mean, in the 2024 election, Labour benefited because it was not the incumbent. And in these kind of anti-incumbency elections, especially in Scotland, it was the sort of the incumbency of the SNP in Holyrood and the incumbency of the Tories in Westminster. By voting Labour, you could vote against both of those at the same time, which is why Labour did very well in 2024. Because now Labour is the incumbent in Westminster, people appear to be able to forgive Peter Murrell and his 17 coffee machines. And
but it's not just that. It's also because the SNP has quite a big chunk of its base locked into it because of independence.
Yeah, exactly.
And Will Hayward told us something last week, which I think does also apply to Scotland. He said that Labour used to be really good at being Welsh Labour or Scottish Labour,
and it's lost its Welshness
without making it about independence.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of been absorbed into unionism in a way. It's just become English Labour trying to prevail in Scotland and Wales, which makes it an unattractive option for all kinds of reasons, some of them to do with the fact that it's too closely tied to Westminster. And how do you kind of restore that bit without letting go a little bit of the reins from Westminster? Because I think that's part of it, isn't it?
Well, I mean, Anna Sarwar took the ultimate step in distancing himself from Westminster by calling for
3 times.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and still he didn't make a huge amount of headway in Scotland. I think part of the problem in both of those nations is that in Plaid and in the SNP, there is an alternative, a progressive alternative to Labour.
I'd say there is another progressive alternative. In England, you also have that, right, with the Lib Dems and the Greens. But in Scotland and Wales, you have another one that is big and established.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think the local elections now shows that there is the same phenomenon is happening in England.
Yeah.
But I think up till sort of fairly recently, they didn't think that would be the case in England, which is, of course, the bulk of the seats. And so therefore, you know.
Yeah. But I can't really think of a time that Labour has won a general election without doing very well in Scotland. Whereas I think, you know, there are times when they've done better with fewer of the Northern England seats that everyone seems to be so concerned about right now. You say that Labour needs to reconnect its policies to its historic mission. Talk us through a bit more about how that feels and looks like to you. Like, does that mean better representing the class struggle against capitalist landowners, or something a bit more different and modern in terms of interpretation of that?
So Labour was founded at the turn of the 20th century to represent the working class, who at that point were the most economically insecure people in the country, who were being exploited. There are issues of poor housing, issues of low wages. I mean, you know, plus ça change. The working class now, though, looks very different to the working class of the early 20th century. And actually, those sort of thinking in sort of really kind of quite crude terms of sort of working class people as people who sort of do things, you know, manual labour, often people who haven't been to university. I mean, actually, a lot of working class people, there's much more of a divide now between older working class people and younger working class people. That age divide really is the big divide rather than necessarily class. So you have a lot of working class people now who are older, who own their own houses outright, who have a good pension, often a good company or occupational pension, have benefit from the triple lock rising every year, and are actually pretty financially secure. And you actually find, you know, a lot of those people are, you know, they are quite right-wing economically because they have money, and they are quite right-wing socially. And so the fact that they don't vote Labour anymore shouldn't come as a huge surprise to anyone. And I think sometimes the sort of mourning, there's parts of the Labour Party that sort of mourn the loss of those voters, is kind of not really engaging with the fact that they don't have any reason to vote Labour. Their attitudes don't really align with Labour, and their material interests don't really align with Labour. And instead, you know, you've got quite a lot of young people, including people who did go to university, people who have got huge amounts of student debt, who are living in cities, who are being exploited by their landlords. And you know, maybe they have a degree, but actually they are now in a much more financially precarious position than an older person. My mum's a really good example of a working class person who ended up owning a very nice property in West London with a teacher's pension, who was actually quite well off by the end. I mean, actually, Claire Ainsley wrote a very good book a few years ago called The New Working Class, in which she was sort of talking about how we should revise our ideas of what a working class person looks like. It isn't just a sort of miner. It is a call centre worker. It is a kind of,
And very often an immigrant.
And very often an immigrant. And actually,
and that's part of the thing that is never acknowledged.
Yep, absolutely.
That, that socialism and democratic socialism are internationalist movements for a reason.
Yep.
Because once you start to segment the worthy and the less worthy, you end up antagonizing working people against other working people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what we're seeing now.
Absolutely.
Quiet, Riot.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Bring a date, your squad, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Quiet, Riot.
Ask me my 3 main priorities for government, and I tell you, education, education, and education. And I tell you my vision of the future. I would like a state education system in Britain so good, so attractive, that parents choose to put behind us the educational apartheid of the past, private and state, and I don't believe anything would do more to break down the class divides that have no place in a modern country in the 21st century.
This is a pre-election conference, and everyone knows that a big show of unity is important. So quite frankly, Tony Blair could recite the telephone directory and he'd get 10 minutes of standing ovation.
I saw that you recently wrote, so this is not in the report, but you recently also wrote about whether Labour can attract back the Muslim vote, which has been lost for a variety of reasons, some quite notable. Again, is that something that will make other missions more difficult, as it were, attracting other segments more difficult? Is part of the problem, what I'm trying to say, is part of the problem that those segments no longer see each other as part of the same struggle, I guess. They see each other as rivals.
So I think it kind of goes back to sort of Labour's history here. I mean, Labour has introduced all of the liberalising pieces of legislation with the exception of equal marriage, which passed with Labour's MPs' support.
And constitutional reform. I mean, they've got a really great heritage on democratic equality as well as gender and racial equality.
And race equality, absolutely. And people know this. I think if you vote Labour, then you know that it is a party that is anti-racist, that stands up against racism, that has a history of standing up against racism. Yeah. And I think kind of trying to pretend that we don't, or that's not who we are, I don't think is helpful, even to voters for whom, they don't feel that that may be a priority, but they kind of know what they're getting. You should know what you're getting if you cast a vote for Labour. Just as if you sort of cast a vote for, if you cast a vote for David Cameron in 2010, you knew you were going to get a smaller state. You knew that you were going to get cuts to public services, because that's what the Tories do. And if you did that knowingly, then that's absolutely fine. So for Labour to kind of shy away from the fact, or feel that it needs to shy away from the fact that it does support multiculturalism, it does support diverse communities, it does stand up, it should stand up for people who are being unfairly discriminated against, whether that's because of their social class, whether their gender, whether their sexuality, whatever it is. That is who we are. And I don't see it as being incompatible with, trying to win voters who, for example, want us to do better on the economy, or even voters who want us to stop small boats from arriving.
But also people with disability.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes.
And I think they have found the last couple of years difficult, and we're very grateful to the backbench MPs who stood up against Liz Kendall's proposals. But that has come back up again. And obviously we've had the Mandelson Tranche 2 released this week, and Pat McFadden talking to Mandelson about, the fact that every conversation is all about how can we tax people more so we can give benefits to others. And, so
practically, can I just say, just as a bracket, it's practically the only notable bit
in the whole thing.
I mean, journalists spent 2 days shaking the boxes under the tree, only to then, on Mandelson Day, try to pretend that socks are what they always wanted. And it was quite tragic to watch, to be honest, because there was very little in there.
But I think, this is the point about that authenticity. I agree with you completely that more extremely right-wing voter does never believe Labour when they say, oh, we hate trans people, or we, want far fewer immigrants or whatever. But on the other side, I do think you've got people who genuinely thought Labour would look out for the interests of those very marginalised groups, in particular those at risk of having their PIP cut, then suddenly seeing quite a bold move to try and cut it that nearly got through,
and then
a retreat, and then now a live conversation still happening. So,
which kind of undermines your values point. I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? That if you try and do stuff and triangulate this and triangulate the other, and then try to do it and then actually retreat from doing it, you don't look as if you have an inner core, an ideology that dictates what the right solution to something is.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this with Naomi the other day. If I go back, even to people with whom I disagree fundamentally, if I think of Thatcher, Major, Blair, Brown, even Cameron, if you presented me with a hypothetical policy situation, I could have a decent crack at telling you
pinning
which
it on
way
them.
they might
pin the policy on the donkey.
Which way they might lean if this were to come up. If you ask me right now, and I'm not just saying this about Starmer, actually about Badenoch, about Davey,
Burnham,
about, if you asked me about a host of people now, I couldn't tell you which way they would lean in a particular hypothetical, except Farage.
Yeah.
I could tell you which
and
way
probably Polanski.
he would go, and possibly Polanski, although he's had wobbles. But and maybe that's the key, isn't it? That clarity, that simplicity is the key.
Yeah, no, I mean, I entirely agree. I mean,
You're nodding quite vigorously.
I am nodding quite vigorously. What I would say is, Labour just did inherit, I know nobody wants to hear it, but it is nevertheless true, that Labour did inherit this absolutely awful situation that did require it to make some
deliberately awful.
Oh, and that Jeremy Hunt last minute stitch up.
Yeah, completely. What I would like to have seen more of is that its policy choices were clearly guided by a set of consistent values. So that if we are going to have to cut something, or if we are going to have to make a difficult decision, it is because we are trying to do it in a progressive and fair way. I mean, I think that there's even an argument you could have made an argument for the winter fuel allowance cut on the basis of, we are giving quite a lot of money to rich pensioners.
Yeah.
I completely agreed with it. I mean, that was the one that I was very comfortable with. My wealthy-ish retired mother doesn't need a winter fuel payment, and she was very happy to surrender it.
But can I just say something? I don't disagree with the policy of means testing it, but for it to be the first thing that you do.
Oh, totally. Of course.
And therein lay the problem, is that they didn't frame it as sort of part of a budget measure of this is very, very difficult. We've had to make some difficult choices, and we've decided that the people with the broadest shoulders should bear it. Instead, it was kind of announced separately as a kind of this will show how fiscally responsible we are. And that, I think, was the
timing was terrible. And it was the time when the press had very little else to be talking about. They gave them a summer of wanging on about it.
I mean, two-child benefit cap, I think similarly, if you had come in that first 6 months, the first budget, and said, we can't cut it right now, but we will cut it next year or the year after. If you'd given a timeline, if you'd said, this is wrong, but we can't afford to do it right now, we're going to do it in 2 years, I think things would have been calmer and you would have got some credit for doing it. Now, it just looks as if you didn't want to do it. You quite liked having a two-child benefit cap, and then you've been forced into...
Christabel, I know she
categorically tell you that nobody likes
it.
But you know, that's what it looks
I take your
like.
Point. I take your
that
point.
You've been dragged kicking and screaming into doing the right thing. And we see this all the time.
Yeah.
Quiet, Riot. Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Quiet, Riot.
Batley and Spen is a gathering of typically independent, no-nonsense, proud Yorkshire towns and villages. Our communities have been deeply enhanced by immigration, be it Irish Catholics across the constituency or Muslims from Indian Gujarat or Pakistan, principally from Kashmir. And it's a joy to represent such a diverse community. And whilst we celebrate our diversity, the thing that surprises me time and time again as I travel around the constituency is that we are far more united and have far more in common than that which divides us. And I will happily work with all who are genuinely committed to building an economic powerhouse in the north. I'm Batley and Spen, born and bred, and I could not be prouder of that. I'm proud that I was made in Yorkshire, and I'm proud of the things that we make in Yorkshire, and Britain should be proud of that too. I look forward to representing the great people of Batley and Spen here over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Courage, I think, is a word that we would love to be able to attribute to Starmer more. You talk about Labour needing political courage to explain these very hard choices we've just been describing. But where is the evidence of that the current government has shown courage, and where has it ducked it? I mean, I think probably some courage over Iran.
Yes, absolutely. That is the area that Keir Starmer is given not uncoincidentally given the most credit for. But yeah, I mean, I think, I do public opinion for a living, and people are really, really fed up. They want help with the cost of living, but, they don't want their taxes to go up. They don't want more borrowing. If you're just guided by public opinion, you just actually get...
Well, then you're a populist.
Yeah, you either end up with unrealistic solutions that aren't going to work in reality, or you sort of get these, trade-offs that people just don't want to come down on either side of.
Yeah.
So actually, you are going to have courage to sort of say, okay, I've looked at this opinion poll. I know people don't like this, but I am going to make this decision anyway, and I'm going to try and take people with me. Now, this isn't to do myself out of a job here, but because I think that what public opinion can do is it can guide you towards the destination that you have chosen. It tells you the path to get there. And sometimes it might tell you literally cannot get to that path. But it should not tell you what that destination is. You have got to decide where you want to take the country. Yeah. And right now, there are no easy paths. There's no sort of, lovely scenic view that, in the sunshine and the hills. It is all kind of like really hard trudging.
Yeah.
And you've got to decide which one of those hard paths you want to take. And then, you do need to make the argument to people of why you're taking that. And then I think, going back to your point about values, we need to say we are taking this hard path because actually we believe this is the progressive and fair path to take. And I know this seems really difficult, and I know there are going to be losers here, and I know that, you're
it's not difficult.
No, it is difficult.
No, I know. But, okay, it's difficult, but it's not complicated.
It's. I don't think the values are complicated.
If your guide
I think
is this will do the most amount of good.
Yeah.
for the most amount of people. And, it's the most efficient choice in this situation where we only have poor choices. I don't think that's a difficult thing to understand.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, some of these choices are kind of really wide-ranging or long-term decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, even something like whether to support America in the Iran war. I mean, does this lead to, the Foreign Office establishment seemed to think that it was going to be absolutely disastrous if we didn't do that and could have very long-term consequences. I do think that governing is hard and there are not easy, obvious decisions for people to make.
I get that. But, Cameron got re-elected with an actual majority, having inflicted 5 years of austerity on the country, which was wrong and ideological. And yet it was explained in such clear and repetitive terms that he managed to take the country with him.
I could not agree more. I think that is a really, really good example.
So it's doable.
It is doable.
So if you had one piece of advice from the work that you've been doing to anyone, including Salma, who wants to lead the party into the next general election, what would it be?
So it would be to remember why you are in politics. Remember what are the values that guide you. And I'm assuming that those values are progressive, that they are left-leaning, that they are about the state being a powerful actor that acts to make life fairer for people and make life better for the underdog. And I would say just remember that with whatever you are doing and make it clear that that is your guiding principle. I'm just really struck by the fact that the parties that are doing well at the moment are the parties which come across to people as authentic. Now, do I think they're authentic? No. I think that the solutions that they're providing are wrong-headed and they won't work. But Nigel Farage is believed on immigration because he has spent all of his life complaining about migrants. So people are like, okay, I believe that guy wants to do something about it. Yeah, I know. I mean, the irony. It really is kind of look within yourself, find your values and express everything you are doing through those values. At the same time, though, you do have to make some really tough decisions. You are going to have to deliver for those transactional voters who want their lives to be better, who don't care about your values, but do want their lives to be measurably better.
Penultimate question. Who are Labour for?
Labour, oh gosh. And now you see, now I'm going to do this thing that I should answer with some pithy phrase.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the left-wing thing of now answering with several sentences. And then everyone goes, oh, well, that's going to lose you the election, isn't it?
You could say for the many, not the few. He doesn't own that fucking sentence.
But it's also...
I know. It's become tainted, but it's actually right.
I know it's a sort of cliche and fairness is sort of something that everyone believes in. But I mean, I know from my own life, the government made a huge difference to my life.
Yeah.
It gave me the opportunity to make my own way in the world. And I do just fundamentally believe in the power of government to make things fairer for people and to give people their own opportunity to make their own luck.
So it shouldn't be who is Labour for, it's what is Labour for? Fairness.
Yes, in part. Yeah.
So what's your call to action for listeners?
So the first thing is obviously to read the report.
Yeah. And we will link to it down below, listeners. Go and find it.
But I think also to believe that political parties can contain within them people who have different ideas and different interests. That we don't have to be part of this incredibly fragmented and divisive society where we believe that everyone can only gain if somebody else loses. So I think that's partly what the report is trying to argue for. So I would just urge a bit of, I know it's a kind of slightly bleak times, but I still think this is a country where broadly people get on pretty well and can tolerate difference. So I would ask them to be able to do that when they come to choosing their political parties and choosing who to vote for.
Quiet, Riot.
And now it's time for our weekly dose of good news, our weekly optimism injection. It's time for Grin and Share It.
Good news is welcome to me. Bad news is hell come to me. Good news. Do-de-o-do-lo, 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 I want good news.
What have you got for us this week, Naomi?
A few months ago, the actor Timothée Chalamet, you may remember, controversially declared in what can only be described as an anti-Alexandre hate crime that no one cares about opera anymore.
I know. And it's so wounding that it came from a cute twink. Like, how dare you?
Well, anyway, some primary-aged kids in Sheffield must have heard him and said, "Hold my Capri Sun." Because last week, pupils from one of England's most deprived areas took to the stage for an opera performance of Henny Penny at Sheffield's Crucible Theatre. This is an opera that tells the story of a young chicken who believes the sky is falling in when an acorn lands on his head.
It's quite an American thing. Do you tend to do it here?
No, but I mean, we've got Chicken Lickin', same vibe. So a choir of 8 to 10-year-olds from the Maynell Primary School all live in a neighbourhood that is within the 3% most deprived in England in relation to education and skills. And their teacher said, "We've got a lot of children who may struggle in more academic subjects, but they're thriving in this musical line. And we were able to show them that this is a path they can take. They can, if they want to, become a musician and hearing live music and seeing people sing. Again, it's just an opportunity we couldn't turn down." Now, Remedy, who is in year 5, she said, "I think opera is where you can express what you want to sing, because you could use an angry type of singing or a loud type of singing because you're basically expressing the story."
I love that.
And then Ethan, who's the year below her, said he felt nervous but excited. He said, "There are going to be hundreds of people I'm going to sing in front of, but I'm confident because I always wanted to be on stage." So I just wanted to say a huge bravo to the performers and the staff of Maynell Primary School. And take that, Chalamet. May an acorn fall on your head and knock some bloody sense into you.
I love that. That was
I thought you'd like that
very much
one.
for me, wasn't it?
It was,
Thank you, Naomi. And listeners, as ever, we'll drop a link in the show notes so you can not just grin, but also share it.
And that's a wrap on this week's Quiet Riot B-side. A huge thank you to Christabel for joining us once again.
Thank you. It's lovely being here.
And we'll have the report linked in the show notes, and we will absolutely be getting you back on the show.
And if you'd like to help us keep making content like this, come and find us at ko-fi.com/Quiet Riot Pod for less than the price of an iced latte. You'll be helping us do something we're genuinely proud of, making everything freely available to everyone at the same time, no exceptions. If the budget's tight right now, no worries at all. Subscribe to the full Cooler Heads family of shows, leave us a review, and share an episode with someone who needs it.
We're back on Sunday with the weekend wrap-up. So until then, good luck dodging the summer rain. Remember, we love you lots. And don't forget to keep on rioting, but quietly. Bye.
Quiet Riot is an audio production by Cooler Heads with Naomi Smith and Alex Andreou. Produced by Kenny Campbell. Music by Mariana Sangeeta. Artwork by Simone Canelu. And edited by me, Alex Reese.
Quiet Riot. Good morning, Henny Penny. Cock-lock.
Good morning, fox-locks. Windy, windy, windy day.